Hi, dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome all, our webinar guests and our presenter, Magnejem Gisvoldom from Norway, and also my co-host Juretom Gostišo. Welcome to the first Medicina danes farma debate. I will continue in Slovene to introduce today's agenda. Torej, sem Lucija Petavs, dober dan, moj sogostitelj te debate Juretom Gostišo, analitik in šef za razvoj, ki dela tako v Sloveniji kot v državah, ki so vključene v skupino Bonnier Healthcare, ki pripada tudi Medicina danes, torej vse skandinavske države, Estonija, Poljska in Nemčija. Pozdravljeni torej v imenu celotne današnje debate ekipe še enkrat. Koronavirus je v drobovje spremenil komuniciranje, ki v našem primeru vključuje tudi komuniciranje seveda z našo glavno javnostjo, to so zdravniki, medicinska strokovna javnost. Zato smo se v uredništvu Medicine danes iz slovenske medicinske skupine Bonnier Healthcare Slovenija, kjer imamo skupaj z našimi sestrskimi medicinskimi mediji iz Skandinavije kar nekaj izkušenj z digitalnim načinom komuniciranja, odločili, da poudarimo nekaj dejstev in odgovorimo na nekaj vprašanj v zvezi z digitalnim komuniciranjem, ki jih je vse več. V tem času, ko se moramo omejeno gibati, se s tem srečujete tudi vi v povezavi s prenašanjem sporočil do vaših HCP-jev. Jure, prosim, če lahko predstaviš najinega današnjega gosta, Magneja, s katerim se profesionalno tudi zelo dobro poznata, se veliko delata skupaj.
Ja, hvala, Lucija. Lep pozdrav še z moje strani. Moja današnja naloga je zelo enostavna. Malenkost bom predstavil Magneja, potem pa v primeru, da naš sogovornik, ki je velik strokovnjak na svojem področju, če slučajno zaplava v preveč tehnične vode, da bom probal ustaviti ali pa recimo prevesti v bolj razložljiv jezik te njegove strokovno znanje. Tako, z nami je Magne, lociran je v Trondheimu na Norveškem, in je iz našega sestrskega podjetja v Bonnier Healthcare. Podjetje se imenuje NHI, več o podjetju bo kasneje povedal Magne. Magne ima korenine v novinarstvu, bil je novinar in urednik na norveški nacionalni televiziji, na največjem norveškem časopisu. Potem pa je zaplaval v oglaševalsko-marketinške vode in se zadnjih 17 let specializiral za ta segment, večinoma za digital marketing. In z Magnejem veliko sodelujemo v celotni Bonnier skupini, tudi izven healthcare področja, ker njegove ekspertize obsegajo precej širok spekter tega digitalnega marketinga. Tako da bi kar predal sedaj besedo naprej Luciji, več o podjetju bo povedal Magne.
Torej, Magnejeva predstavitev bo potekala v angleščini, verjetno tudi večina debate. Z Juretom pa bo poskrbela, da bodo nekatere pomembne informacije vseeno prevedene v slovenščino oziroma v delu na našem trgu. Vse skupaj bo dogodek trajal približno dobro uro. V bistvu je vse pripravljeno, da začnemo. Naj vas lepo prosim, dragi gostje, ki nas poslušate, še opozorim, da lahko vprašanja, ki se vam porodijo med predavanji in na katera bomo odgovarjali po Magnejevem predavanju, vpišete v chat area, lahko kar v angleščini, da vam bo lažje, oziroma kakorkoli. Tisto vprašanje, na katera ne bomo utegnili odgovoriti, verjetno jih nekaj bomo zbrali in na nje odgovorili in vam jih potem skupaj s posnetkom v prihodnjih dneh poslali prek newslettera. So, we can start, Magne, welcome in Slovenia, in Pharma Debate webinar. So, the main window is now yours.
I was off there. Thank you a lot for the introduction. I did not understand all of it, of course, but hopefully it was favorable. And thank you for inviting me to Slovenia, although I would prefer being with you in person, of course. The weather here really sucks. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to see and hear me speak a bit about marketing today. I'm pretty hopeful that you're not wasting your time. First of all, I want to make clear that I talk from a Norwegian perspective. as you probably know, in many statistics, Norwegians are pretty digital. They like buying new gadgets and trying new things. And Norway is often being used as a testing ground for new products and services by big American tech companies even. So we can assume, I think, that also within digital marketing for the pharma industry, Norway is a bit ahead of maybe most of Europe, or at least parts of Europe. So bear that in mind, that some things may not be directly relatable. And also the laws and regulations, they might differ from Norway and Slovenia. So some aspects of what I talk about may be more or less relevant to your region. However, if you have any, if you want to comment on that, you can maybe use the chat function. I hope you can see it on your screen, and we can address it afterwards if time permits, or later. So where do we start with the digital marketing for pharma? First, I want to tell a bit about NHI and what we do, and show you how pharma ads look on our platform. I'll also explain a bit about our position as we do this. So I work at NHI. We have a public domain that's called nhi.no. And this site, it doesn't always look like this. It's a bit crammed because I scroll down to somewhere where you can see different things. But this is where people go for health information. This is ordinary people, the whole of the population. We have around 550,000 users every week. And some of them are doctors or other health personnel. And we also have a specific section that's only for professionals. And on average, 30 to 35% of all our users are health personnel. And here you can see on the sides here, you can see there's an ad for diabetes on the left and also diabetes on the right from two different companies. And if you click on these banners, you will come to an article that we are hosting for the pharma companies. We also show this content in other ways, such as the box on the right there, which is, it has a green label on it. It says annonce, which means ad. And that is shown together with our editorial content. So we're promoting the advertorials or the content marketing alongside our own content. And here's another example where you see at the bottom a block of content from our advertisers, all the green ones at the bottom there. And we have a lot of this. In the most busy periods, we may have between 10 and 15 campaigns running at the same time. And all of them have pretty good results. But then again, we have a lot of traffic, so we can serve all of these at the moment. And these ads that you see on the bottom here, when you enter our site, you will get a question when you get there. Are you health personnel? Yes or no? And if they answer yes, then we are eligible to show them these ads. If you say no, then we assume you're an ordinary citizen and you see only our own content and other ads than pharmaceutical ads. This is what an article looks like. I can try to zoom in a bit, if I'm able. Couldn't do that. Anyway, this is how an article looks like. It looks exactly like our own articles, only it's tagged on the top with this is an ad. And it also has no other disturbing stuff on it, no other ads, no mentions of other editorial articles you might read, unless you have another one yourself as an advertiser. So if this customer had another article, it would be listed on the right side here. We also have newsletters. We have around 14,000 people who are health personnel who's receiving our newsletter from the editorial team twice a week. And this one is also, it has a lot of ads in it. There are two banners and one plug, we call it, which is an editorial article plug that looks like the plugs that we have for our own content. So that is the basic setup. It looks really, really simple. And it is actually really, really simple, but it's also very, very valuable, both to us and to our users. And before talking about how to succeed with digital advertising within the pharma industry, I think it's useful to talk about digital advertising for any industry. And there are some things that must be in place in order to succeed. In all kinds of digital marketing, the effect of a campaign or a long-term digital effort depends on having a lot of different elements working optimally together. It is how do you reach the doctor? What tools do you have for that? How is your communication platform? Once you can reach the doctor, where do you take him and what happens on that platform? That's usually a website. And are you able to attract the doctor's attention when you talk to him? That is the hook, as we call it. And what is your ability to deliver a message, some content that the doctor is actually interested in a manner and form that the doctor is familiar with and comfortable with? Because as you probably know, working in the pharma industry, at least for Norway, doctors are very wary and skeptical about information coming from the pharma industry. How do you kind of bridge that gap? It's a huge challenge. And also, when you make any campaign, you can get some data out of it. That's, of course, a great advantage with digital advertising, that you can get a lot of data, but you can also be drowned by data. So you need to know something about what to expect, how to react to the data you get in, and to learn from it, and from both good and great numbers and bad numbers. You need to learn, what can I do? Why did I get these numbers? What went wrong? What was good? These are, of course, just some elements among many elements that can be said to be a part of a campaign or a huge or a bigger digital scheme. And it can be broken down much further. But you want to at least deliver on par.
Excuse me, sorry, Magne, can you hear me?
I hear you. We
lost your presentation.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, you know. Okay.
I'll get back to my presentation. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, I will get the presentation when it's relevant.
Okay, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm going to show you how this different steps or different elements of a campaign looks when you accumulate them. So I've written a very basic chart here of campaign performance. For each of your elements, that is the reach on the bottom left, and the platform, and the hook, and your message, and your understanding of the feedback that you get. If you get 100%, if it's perfect in every way, then your campaign will be 100% as good as it could be. But if you are only 75% in each of these links in this chain, then you will end up around 22% of perfect, because you need the user to go through every step of the process. So that is why I say that we need to be a bit, we need to know a bit about everything, but not a lot about everything, but enough to know what is our weakest link and start working on that. Sorry, 2 seconds. Yes, I have an example of this. It is that I hope you all understood this this graph. The main point here is that a lot of people, they spend a lot of focus on what they are already good at, instead of spending energy on what they're not so good at, because it works so well what they're good at. So they start being specialists in either creating newsletters or getting leads or writing good content. That's something I would really like to stress, that it's better to be 80% at everything than having something where you only score 10%. Well, I have an example what we did kind of wrong some while ago. This summer, we had a small rundown of all our marketing efforts and so on, and we have been taking our reach for granted. We reach all the doctors in Norway. That was kind of our feeling, has always been, because we have a huge list of doctors, and all of them is using another one of our products, which is a doctor's handbook. So we thought we had them all. And then we started doubting that assumption. There must be new doctors who have come, who are educated and now started working that we haven't got yet. So we made an effort to increase the number of subscribers. And what happened then, that during one summer, we managed to increase our reach with around 20% all over. Not only that, but also we increased the reach of our doctors by 20%. And also we just did some very simple measures. We had a pop-up on our website again, which we hadn't had for years. Are you a doctor? Are you a health personnel? Subscribe to our newsletter. So, and those 20% increase of doctors on our newsletter makes our newsletter 20% more valuable, and makes all the efforts that we do also after the newsletter 20% more valuable. For instance, we have e-learning courses, which we sell them through the newsletter. We sell 20% more e-learning courses, and so on. Or you know that your website is not the best performing website in the world. That is kind of the weak point. Then you need to look at this if you're not suffering on the lead side, for instance. Or you want to change the way you write things. Do A/B testing of subject lines in newsletters, for instance. A/B testing the messages used on banners, and so on. So there's always room for improvement. And whichever part you improve, if you increase something by just 1%, that is a 1% increase on the whole campaign success and the whole marketing success of your company. But in reality, we don't really just look at one thing in one period and then another thing. We try to look at everything at the same time. But sometimes you have to just kind of pull up your shirt and look very hard at one problem and say, we should do better. So the important part, of course, is it's like a 20-80 rule. 80% of your success comes from 20% of your work. So if you identify the weak links of your marketing, that's where you should put a bit more effort to gain even more. And I also see a lot of huge players in digital marketing, much bigger than us, who get this wrong. And it is hard because you need to learn new stuff in order to be at least decent in many areas. And for many, it's more fun to do more of what you are good at than to step outside of the comfort zone. So the main advice, I guess, in general, when it comes to digital marketing, is to make an assessment of the whole marketing scheme and try to identify what the weakest links are. You have a slow website, improve it. Do you have a disappointing response on your message? Improve them, etc. Now, within pharma, you have more specific challenges. As mentioned, we run ad campaigns for a lot of the pharma companies present in Norway. I guess all the big players are on our platform now, or they are on their way. And we've been working with this for about 7-8 years now. And we come from a situation where everything they bought was just product ads, banner ads. Of course, the rules in Norway is that if you mention a product, that's all you can say in a sense. You can put a banner there and hope that someone clicks it. And usually it would just go to the product description, either on their website or the public government website of all the prescription drugs. Now we've managed to turn this around a bit. We don't just run their campaigns anymore. They don't just deliver us banners. We also advise them on anything from what platform to publish on. Should the doctor go to their website or ours? with content marketing and what angle they should use on the content, and of course, what hooks to use to attract the doctor's attention in the first place. And why do we do this? Because we want the campaigns that the industry runs with us to be more successful than the campaigns they run with our competitors. There are competing publishers that also provide these kind of ads. If our customers succeed, we get repeat business. And it's also a bit because we are set up so that we can handle it, because we have marketing and design, and we have doctors in-house that we can talk together and make something great for them. And also just in the recent couple of years, we have seen a lot of change in both the skills within the digital area and the attitude towards digital from the advertisers. Still, we often find big room for improvement, which we give guidance on. For instance, the advertiser's website is not optimal. It is slow, or the page layout is not good for reading deeper content or anything else. There are too many distractions on the page, other topics, other drugs than what they're trying to promote. I'll show you a slide here. So this is an example of an advertiser who has a pretty decent website, although their company name is not very visible on the site, so I don't know who's talking to me. It says touch in the upper left corner there. That is the provider of the website. It's not the company. And they have some products mentioned at the top there. As you see on the left here and on the top, you have a menu where you can click to other stuff, which doesn't really help promoting the product. Some others don't even have any of this. They just haven't made room for having actual content about a specific medical term related to their drug on their website, which to me is pretty mind-blowing, but still it's a great opportunity for their improvement if they want to fix it, or for us to have their content on our site. And also, a thing that I do warn about is talking about yourself, which I think that this logo splash on top here is a typical example where you're so into the branding mindset, which has been very strong for many years, that you need to mention the brand, you need to show the logo. The doctor is not interested in the logo. Of course, in the long run, it's good that he sees it, but it makes most doctors say, oh, this is a pharma website, I'll go back to that other place where I came from, which is a huge challenge. We see a lot of the ads that we run that have a huge click rate or big click rate on on the ads that are running. Still, they don't see the traffic because they exit a lot. So be careful about that. We'll get back to that a bit later. I have some other examples. And also, when you have that the content is far too branded, then most doctors become like a hedgehog. This is from Novartis. Nothing bad about Novartis. Most others have done this as well. But I have to really read this through. You can't read this, of course, the Norwegian part. But first are their slogan, we are inspired to help people breathe. Thank you very much. Novartis is working to promote the quality of life for patients with asthma through development of new drugs. Well, that is your mission statement. Still, I haven't gotten any information that I can use as a doctor. If you want to know more about allergic asthma, click here. Well, I might want to learn more, but I don't know anything about what happens after I click this button, because the advertiser is more concerned about the branding part and not seeing it from the doctor's perspective. What does the doctor need in order to click on this banner? Another issue that I'll turn off the presentation for a while. Another issue that some advertisers have is that they don't have a clear end goal. Part of the reason, I guess, still is because they're used to doing pure branding. But I always try to ask, what specifically do you want to achieve? In other words, what do you want the doctor to actually do? Often the message or the format or the context does not drive this specific behavior sufficiently. If you want the doctor to prescribe this drug instead of that, then you have to shape the campaign in order to achieve that goal. If you want a doctor to diagnose more patients, then you have to give him or her the content that makes them diagnose more people. Or they have a clear goal, but the communication, that is the message in itself, is not good enough. That means they need help with either the hook, the banner ad text typically, or the core message itself. What is it that inspires or triggers the doctor's attention? What kind of content is the doctor interested in the first place? To succeed with this communication, you need to have a pretty good general practical understanding of communication, as well as substantial experience with the target group. And for our part, we have become increasingly better at this, of course. One reason is that for over 20 years, we have communicated directly with the doctors. All the GPs in Norway are using our digital handbook almost every day, and we know how to talk to them, and we know a bit about their needs. So for us, that is something that we know a bit about, and we can advise the industry about. What is the pain points for the doctor? Also, some advertisers, they ignore the context and the doctor's reading mode. An in-depth learning article on a medical topic won't sit well on websites where the doctor is mainly interested in being entertained or just browsing the news. With that I mean, if you're advertising on a news site, then what you advertise should be news. Should be a new treatment for mild to severe psoriasis is now approved, for instance. If it's like our site, where the doctor is mainly concerned with updating their medical knowledge, then you should provide articles that are knowledgeable and kind of deep, and where the doctor can pick up some new things that she didn't know before. So I guess we have some time actually to go through some of the ads that we have run on our site. I'll show you some of the banners now. This is a bit, it's very specific because it shows pretty clearly what we have learned during the years about what works and what doesn't work. This is, of course, because we have run a lot of ads and we can compare the results for every ad we have run. And bear in mind that if some of you work in any of these companies, it's not criticism of what any company does, because all the mistakes or suboptimal performance that we see is something that all companies have done and are still doing, some of them. So it's not like those are bad and those are good. Let's see. I'll try to read quickly through this. This is the same, of course, product and the firm. On the top one, you have changing lifestyle is challenging. Here you can order a useful tool to help your patients with type 2 diabetes. On the bottom, you have unsure about the treatment of diabetes type 2. Here you can order our short version of the national guidelines. So the first one, it talks about lifestyle changes. It's challenging. And they have a tool that can help the patients in some way. And we know that lifestyle changes is probably something that doctors struggle a lot with. And maybe they would react to it pretty good if they didn't know that lifestyle changes very rarely happen. The patients don't change. So they're not very interested in that. And the other one, which was our suggestion. The top one was what we got from the advertiser. Are you unsure about the treatment of diabetes type 2? Here you can order our short version of the national guidelines. And we know that doctors have a hell of a job keeping up to date with all the guidelines. And, well, saying that you're uncertain about the treatment is maybe a bit of a gambit. It might offend someone. But if you are a bit uncertain, then you may click. And the one on the bottom, the click rate there is over 50% higher than the one on the top, which shows that small changes in the way you communicate can have a huge impact. 50% increase on the click rate is a 50% increase on the success of the campaign. Here are two other banners that we have made. The first one is for KOLS. It's called in Norwegian, which means, I guess, obstructive lung disease or something like that. And second, as you can see, diabetes type 2. The first one about KOLS, how to find the right inhalator for each patient. That's it. So the doctor knows that this, if I click here, I will know something about the difference between inhalators. So if you're interested in that, you will click. If you're not, you won't, of course. The good thing about that, when you're being this specific, is that you know that the person who clicks it and comes to your website or to the content on another website, they're interested in this topic, which is a huge difference, because you will have a lot more success if the doctor knows where they're heading. Or they'll just click back again and do something else. Same with diabetes type 2. It says, important safety study. The Carmelina study reports long-time safety data on a DPP4 inhibitor. Well, if you're interested in safety studies and DPP4 inhibitors, sorry, then you'll probably click it. It's pretty narrow, and it should be pretty narrow, because then you reach those who are actually interested in what you have to say. Another important part about these banners is that we know for a total fact that if you start with mentioning, sorry, if you started mentioning the disease first, then you kind of anchor the mind of the reader, and you know what's the theme here. If I go back, you can see also another difference between those two is that in the bottom one, you mentioned diabetes type 2 in the first line. On the other one, you have it in the third line. Here is on the top one, you start first line with lifestyle changes, and already the doctor is getting a bit bored. So we know for a fact that mentioning the disease early and preferably at first, that gives a higher click rate. It's kind of, you're telling the doctor that we are talking about something that you think about every day. They think a lot in the frame of diagnostics. Here you see a bit of the same. The top one, more guideline stuff. In Norway, I don't know if this is relevant for Slovenia, but in Norway, guidelines are really, really important to follow up. It's mandatory to follow all the national guidelines. In Germany, where I'm also working a bit, doctors don't have to do this, so that isn't that big of a trigger. That might differ in Slovenia. The second banner here, the pink one, it says, patient with diabetes type 2 and heart disease, where metformin and or lifestyle changes is not enough. They narrowed down not only the diagnosis, but also what treatments they had. Of course, it will also narrow down the audience, but the ones who click it and read it, they get exactly what they need, because they are curious. Because if you just said diabetes on the banner, like the asthma example previously, no one will ever click it. Or 0.16, 17%, which is the lowest we have for any banners. That's just it, because people are naturally curious and just are trying to spend time on something. The top one is interesting. It's talking about children with who are wetting their bed. And it says in the pink square under there, see what, I don't remember the medical word for it, but child doctor Vibeke Fossum writes about bedwetting. This can swing both ways. First of all, it looks like it's meant to be for parents of children and not for doctors. On the other hand, a lot of doctors are also parents with children who may or may not have this problem. The click rates were really good, but I'm thinking that a lot of those clicks were not from doctors, and I don't want that. If I'm an advertiser, I want mainly doctors to click on my banners, because then the data I get back is actually useful, and the readers I get are valuable. On the bottom, are you a general practitioner? Is the question. It's very direct. Of course, you have singled out the users very nicely, and then they ask if you want to attend a national meeting about diabetes and some other diseases. To me, this is a bit. It's a bit like a street salesman comes up to you and asks, "Do you want to save the world?" or ask you something very specific. I think some doctors will just ignore it because it's very. Well, it doesn't really entice your curiosity. You understand that you're being screened in a sense, but still you have a good click rate on this, and everyone who clicks this is a doctor. Not everyone, but a huge segment. On the top here is a banner we ran from the National Directory of Health, and it says around 900 people die due to influenza or the flu every year. Protect your patient. The influenza vaccine is free. Talk to your boss today. And well, there are many things wrong with this one, and I can say it really loud because none of you work in the Norwegian Health Directorate. First of all, it says something about how many dies of the flu every year. I think most doctors know that. It's redundant information. And second, they come with an imperative, protect your patient. And that's what doctors are doing every day. And the flu vaccine is free, thank you. That's nice to know, that's good. Talk to your boss today. I don't think well, maybe there are some, but 99% of the GPs in Norway, they don't have a boss. So it's very strange. So the point is, be mindful of the perspective of the doctor. Even if you're the government and you want to instruct all the doctors to do what you want them to do, you can't instruct the doctors because no one likes to listen to people telling you what to do. So you have to kind of have a bit more sympathetic approach than pointing a finger. Yeah, and the bottom one, we just went through that. The banner in the bottom here, it has about the same click rates as a common brand banner with just the product name. It's usually around 0.17% clicks. It sounds very, very little, but of course you need to have a lot of exposures anyhow. This is for the same campaign. This leads to, and most of these that I've shown you leads to some article that we are hosting on our site. It leads to the same article. Sanofi is the customer, and on their behalf, we wanted to test two different versions. They also wanted to brand the product, so we ran them in tandem with the one that we made. And the bottom one is today's diabetes treatment a compromise between hypoglycemia and satisfactory HbA1c? Which is at least not layman's terms, it's medical terms, it's doctor's terms. Of course, some nurses and so on also knows what this means, but it narrows down who might be interested in the ad. And the bottom one had over 100% more clicks than the top one. So after a while, we removed the branding banner, because when you click on the bottom banner, you still see the brand when you get into the article. So we sacrificed branding in the first step to make more doctors actually read the content. Yes, that was some examples. I hope they kind of triggered your interest, and I'm summing up here what triggers the doctor's interest. I can, of course, go through it. You have to mention the disease. That's always, if you can, unless you have just a product, like the rules in Norway, you can't say anything else than the product on a pure product ad. But then, unless that, always mention the disease. They are not triggered by the patient perspective. You need to be, or you want to be specific, detailed, nerdy, and advanced. Use very medical terms, and be like also medical terms that maybe not all doctors know, because that also triggers their interest. And the part about being specific is also they should know before they click, what can I expect on the other side of the click? What kind of information are you trying to give me? Which goes with the next one. Don't make surprise packages, like the one with the asthma. Do you want to learn more about the asthma? I know a lot about asthma, so what are you going to teach me? I don't know. Get to the point quickly. That is common sense when it comes to, if you have maybe 1 or 2 seconds before the doctor decides to click a banner or not. Make it short. Stay true to the editorial format and the utility and the tone of the media you're advertising in. So it should look and feel the same. And if you're on a site, as I said, that's providing news, then try to make your content marketing like news. And if it's a page where they have maybe a lot of entertainment, make a quiz. And if it's a web page where, like ours, where it's more in-depth about actual diseases and treatments, make an in-depth article about treatments and diagnostics and so on. And we know that the more you brand it, the more you mention your brand, the more registered trademark circles you have, or the more brand colors and so on that you use, the more the doctor will see very clearly that this is a pharma ad. I'm a bit skeptical. So try to match the format of the ads to the format of the web page where you are advertising as much as you can. And it doesn't have to look sexy. I think that in many cases, you need to kind of, it should be more kind of heavy, like it was almost the government who would put an ad there. Make it as simple and clear and easy to read as possible. Then you'll gain more authority. That is, I guess that was the last. Yeah, there was one more. Also keep in mind from the outset, when you're starting planning campaigns, what do the doctors need? Because you have to find a space between what your needs are as an advertiser. What is your message? What do you want to happen? And what the doctor wants to happen. And those needs can meet somewhere. And the doctor needs updated knowledge quickly and efficiently. They feel a bit stressed, they have a lot of patients, and they need to spend a lot of time updating. They don't have time for nonsense. Give me what I need or I won't read it. If you can give them good practical tools for the clinical practice, that is excellent. If, for instance, you have national guidelines, maybe make kind of a shorter version, because the official ones are really, really long. Make a shorter version with the highlights or just the changes or whatever. Something they can print out and keep in their office, or make a flow chart. And they need to be acknowledged. They also are human beings, and they need to feel that when you're talking to them through a banner or an article, that you understand who they are. So you have to communicate on their terms. And part of that is, of course, delivering on the first two things here. So if you're able to balance our needs with the doctor's needs, then we'll come together and have a better day. So that was a lot, I guess. Probably some questions.
Okay. Thank you, Magne. Thank you, Magne, for your presentation. It was very nice. Many useful informations. I would have first question for you, because what, in your opinion, is the greatest challenge, also very important, that pharma companies have with succeeding with digital marketing strategy? The most important things and also the biggest challenges, as far as I understood your presentation. Magne, we can hear you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can. Thank you.
Well, it's a huge question, of course, but the short answer to that is it's a tradition, structure, and culture. A lot of the companies still operate in a very old school manner and seem to believe that mentioning the product is key to success. And they are perhaps forgetting that getting the doctor to prescribe the product is the overall goal, not mentioning the product to the doctors, but having them actually prescribe the product. So mentioning the product doesn't fulfill that goal in the long term, because the doctor hasn't learned anything. You just reminded him that the product exists, and maybe for the next week or month or a year, they'll prescribe it more often, but then it loses effect. So you have to just feed that campaign all the time. So you can get deeper than that. And I feel that European branches of especially American companies have adopted the American way of marketing pharmaceuticals. In the US, they have great success with just throwing money at branding and communicating their USPs, that being their unique selling points. That might still make some sense in the US, but it doesn't make a lot of sense in Europe. Because I think in general, our market is not that saturated with commercials. So having the loudest mouth is not working that well. Also, a lot of the companies are run very top down, and the form and the content of the communication is decided at a very high level of management. And not many of the people responsible for pharma marketing, in Norway at least, are marketers. And the marketers who make those rules, they sit on the top of the companies, and they provide brand Bibles, for instance. And these are actual Bibles that you need to follow these rules. For instance, with that one asthma ad I showed you, I guess that is the case. This is how the ad is supposed to look like. And then you don't have any leeway. It's very rigid. And the freedom to adapt the communication to the specific country is lacking. And all of this can make it hard to communicate effectively. So I would advise anyone in the business of pharma marketing to fight for an increasing degree of freedom to shape their campaigns and the tactics and the format of the communication as they think is fitting for their region. But I think also this is loosening up more and more, but that would be kind of the main challenge.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. In my experience, Magne, good content is pretty much a key here. What types of content seems to be the most successful in Norway, for example?
Yeah, I will speak specifically about our channels then, because I don't control the others, and other content might work better on other websites. But our channels are, as I mentioned, where doctors come to get updated on medical and health issues, both on a professional level, but also personally, if they have an issue with a family that they don't know about. And for content marketing to work, the content articles should mimic the website where you put the article. As I said, don't put hard news on a site who are providing mainly entertainment, or vice versa. So on our site, expert interviews are very popular. If some expert some professor somewhere, for instance, or what do you call that, a high-ranking doctor at a hospital or whatever, talks about a very specific subject. For instance, how to monitor the testosterone level of a prostate cancer patient, just for an example. I have a long article about that. That works very well. And it could be also insightful articles about the usefulness of different treatments, or in-depth articles about pharma research on a specific active ingredient even. And it also can be, as I mentioned, tools for clinical use. The tools that they can, it might be like a calculator to figure out the caloric needs of a patient, or whatever, something that you can use every day or now and then, or print out or hang on the wall or something like that, that keeps reminding you about either the company or the product name. And also, I think the most important thing is to always assume that you're talking to medical geeks. So make the articles long and use inside lingo and difficult medical terms. Just make them really long if you can, because that means that even if someone falls off after 1 minute or 2 minutes, still they have spent quite some time with your article, and those who finish it all, they are really, really happy with what they got, because you really tapped into their curiosity about this topic. So they will probably, it will take a long time before they forget the message in that article. And the only exception for a long article is if you make tools for clinical use, of course, then make them really short. Yeah.
Okay. Hvala. Dolgi članki torej, veliko komplicirane vsebine, bi lahko temu tako rekli, malo v šali seveda. Naj vas opomnim, da lahko vprašate, dragi naši gostje, kakšno vprašanje, oziroma napišete svoje vprašanje na desni strani vašega ekrana, kjer piše chat. Pustite kakšno vprašanje. I have another question for you, Magne. How involved is your team in the marketing tactics and content development of your clients? That means, are you working as a team in whole the strategy, or how do you start with?
Well, it varies a lot from customer to customer, but for more and more customers, we are kind of, they treat us more like an advertising agency than a publicist. And that is our strategic aim also, to be kind of their go-to team if they have a question about launching a campaign, or even the details of how to make this banner work, or whatever it might be. Part of the reason is what I mentioned earlier, that we see that they have much more success if we are able to give them that input, and they learn also when you first start taking that feedback from us, and you utilize it, and you see the results are better, then they'll come back for more. So in the best cases, we have planning meetings with many members of their teams, where we talk about the different campaigns they are going to run the next year and so on, and plan when they're going out, and then what the main topics should be, and so on. And that is, of course, a position that we like a lot. And we also see that when sometimes some of them use an advertising agency, which are not, they don't have a lot of years of experience with talking to doctors. And when we get either the article or the banner, we see that, this is not going to fly. This is, we can do better. And then we try to, but of course politely, because it's, we don't want to kind of run over our clients and say that this is bad, this is better. But we try to say, maybe if you could try this, would be interesting. And in, I guess, 80% of the cases, that's where our consulting kind of cycle starts with new customers. Is that, for instance, we say before the campaign starts, we don't think it's going to deliver that because of this and that. And they say, yeah, but we will run it like that. And then after a couple of weeks, we have data that says that, well, it didn't run that well. So we try to upgrade it. And we do, and usually we see an increase in the effects, and then we have a new and loyal customer, in a sense. That's
Okay.
kind of, yeah, long answer, but yeah, it varies a lot, but more and more.
We have a question from our attendee. She says, what would you recommend as call to action in a start? I suppose she means in a start of a digital campaign, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a question that can be interpreted in many ways, of course, because for some the button or the link is the call to action, and to some it's the message. But what I call the hook is usually the text on the banner. But I would, and that depends, of course, a lot on the campaign. But the main thing to get the interest is mention the disease and be very specific about what is behind the banner. So that don't say read about asthma. It's like anyone can click that. You have no control over your audience. And when it comes to the kind of button part, how do you make them click? Well, it depends. If you want a woman to click, have a green button. If you want a man to click, have an orange button. That actually increases that way. That's just how it is. There's some science behind some things. But also the text in the button can vary. It depends a bit on how much space you have in each position. But I would never say, click here. I would not say that.
Okay, next way. Okay.
Say, read more or learn more or whatever is like very basic. I don't know if that answered the question, but
Hope so, unless Barbara will ask again. More specifically, Anya is asking, what is your experience with video content, explanatory videos, lectures, and so on? Do you have any?
Yes, we offer video that are embedded inside our articles. And the experience is popular content when they get to the article, but we don't usually on the banners say that watch our video.
Okay.
But, I don't know why, it might be culture. If it was like a 15-year-old kid, maybe would be more than happy to click it. But the doctor, no, I'm a doctor, I'm reading now. No entertainment. So it's we have seen that if you say that it's a video, you don't get that many clicks. If you don't say it and then lead them to the article with a video pretty high up in the article, then you get a lot of video views. So I think video is great. It's just that you have to kind of not trick them into it, but you have to lead them to it, not just say, we have a video for you. And they say, no, thank you, not interested. So they do want to see it, they just don't want to see themselves maybe as people who likes to watch videos for, I don't know, in that context. Also because on ours, they're not there to watch videos either.
Mm-hmm.
We have success with it. It's good.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Okay. Matthias is asking, what is your recommendation how to overcome strict global branding guidelines and requirements to adjust to local needs for small markets like Slovenia, is maybe also Norway?
Yeah.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
What has happened in Norway, at least, is that they just do it anyway. That actually they have guidelines, and if they see that the results are better without following all the guidelines, they kind of they just what do you call it? Civil disobedience, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't worked inside pharma myself. I couldn't say how you could change the policy. I just know that they are like super tankers. They're very slow to turn around. And of course, if you are working very far away from the decision makers, then probably they are very far away from you as well. So you can have some leeway. Maybe you could make some small changes just to see if that works better. Yeah.
Just one question from my side, Magne, because it's I think it's very important. What would you say what makes you an attractive publicist for the pharma business? Is this is your background as a media very important or not so important? What would you say?
If I understand it correctly, it's why our kind of website is attractive to their clients.
Yep.
I guess there are two things. Main things is we have the audience, and they know we have it. Through our newsletter, we can reach 6,000 doctors in one send of an email, which is valuable to them, which ensures them that their message gets sent to the specific target group. And also on our website, we know we have statistics on that too, that how many % are doctors.
Okay.
But of course, they want to reach the right people. And then it's the fact that, and that's important for me actually to say, I should have said earlier, that you don't need to have all the knowledge about digital marketing in-house, because it can be outsourced to people like me. And for our business, we don't take money for all the consulting, even though in some cases we spend 20-30 hours or more actually talking with the client about the campaign and finishing the campaign and all. They don't pay for that. So having the in-house team that is a complete team with analyst and designer and marketer and journalist and whatever, that makes us an attractive partner, because they can actually give us a challenge and we will solve it together with them, and then we learn from the process. So they become better at, they learn a bit all the time, which makes for a long-term relationship. Yeah.
Okay, maybe just one last question before we finished this debate. What data is actually being used to segment physicians and tailor digital engagement to them? Do you have any specific maybe data to mention? What would we watch, or what can be pretty much narrative for us as the users?
Yeah, segmentation. It depends a lot, of course, what your platform is from the beginning. We have a competitor in Norway, which is called Dagens Medicin, today's medicine, which has only doctors as subscribers. So it's pretty well segmented what they do. Although, of course, they have different people coming in, but a majority will be doctors. But what we have is that our other product, which is the Doctor's Handbook, we have all their kind of ID. So we know when they visit our sites that, oh, there's a doctor. We know everyone. I don't know if I can really transfer that, but when it comes to, and usually most media can't pinpoint exactly who the user are. We can't even do that, because if the son of a doctor uses his father's PC, then we will think it's a doctor, it's a 16-year-old, you know? So I think that the most important part on the marketer's side is that you shape the message so that doctors are interested and not the other people. That is the main thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you do extensive tracking, and some of it would be illegal, then you can't like really single out the doctors. So when we say we have, for instance, 3,000 doctors visiting our site every week, it's not because we tracked every single one. It's because we know statistically that we have this, that we have checked. But that is data that you can make it anonymous, and then you can accumulate it, and you can analyze it, and then you have to throw it away. So I can't tell you today how many doctors we have. But yeah, the main takeaway for the advertisers is that make the message very specific so that mainly doctors want to read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Magnejem. Our time is actually up. Thank you for your kind visit. Hvala tudi vsem vam za vaš obisk. Upam, da se vidimo kmalu na naslednji farma debati. Rada bi vas opozorila samo še to, da če slučajno nismo odgovorili na kakšno vprašanje, vam bomo odgovorili v naslednjem newsletteru, ki ga dobite skupaj s posnetkom današnjega predavanja. Hvala še enkrat vsem, hvala Juretu, hvala ekipi, thank you Magne to you too, and see you on the next farma debate. Nasvidenje.